Can you? Okay, welcome
We're
everybody.
recording.
We are in the middle of traveling, so therefore we're going to have, but we don't want to stop learning. So therefore we're going to do some learning, and we're right now in a restaurant in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona, and let's let's do some, let's do a little bit of learning. Yeah, Rabbi, can we put the text on? I'm gonna take off my glasses. Okay, chapter 27. Okay, Vihine, behold, Achashin is bar. After we have learned Derech Prat in details, Sas, a little bit, Be'inyan Eres, a little bit about lights, what that means. Which lights? The Abba Ve'ema, the lights of the father and mother, which is a metaphor for insight, Chokhmah, and Bina, comprehension. So we learned a little bit how they function. And we learned the significance of when they join up and become one. Sometimes they join in a very inner manner, and that causes new souls to be brought into this world. And when they connect in a external way, new energy comes down to make a new day. Now, like we've learned before, Ma'ata yesh levar prate inyan eres dezah. Now it's we need to now we are going to explain the details of the idea of the lights, the zah of the small faces. Small faces are the six emotions of the world of Atilus, Shenikra Yisrael v'Yaakov. And zah has also a name, small faces, but that's also called Israel, and sometimes it's called Yaakov, Jacob. And when these six emotions function in different ways, sometimes it's going to it's going to be Yisrael mode, and sometimes it's going to be Jacob mode, and that's going to make a difference on how what's happening in the world. And we're going to learn all the parts of the unification between the masculine energy and the feminine energy. Zoh is the masculine energy, and there's the mirror, which is nukva, which translates as means whole, but it's actually a mirror that mirrors all the energies of before, but it also passes all the energy on. And when these two energies of small faces and feminine connect, Shenikra Yichud Yisrael V'Leah, it's called the unification between Israel and Leah, and one of the mothers of the Jewish people is Leah. But Leah is really represents and embodies a certain aspect of the feminine energy, and it's more of the intellectual feminine energy. So when Israel connects with the intellectual feminine energy, there are certain results. Or Yichud Yaakov Barachel. Or sometimes the same energies go in and have a different mode. The connection between they're called the connection between Jacob and Rachel. And Rachel is another wife of Jacob, and she represents a verbal, expressive feminine energy. So you can have a feminine energy which is internal and comprehension, or you can have a verbal energy of which is more of a revealed energy, and that is, and when they unite, the Jacob mode and the Rachel unite, it makes different things in this world, like it's known. Ach, tchila yesh lahavin hakdoma be'inyan eretz v'kelim b'chlav. But before we're going to understand this, we need to generally understand a preface, an understanding between lights and vessels in general, in more holistic way, the prat, and also in the parts. We need to understand what is the idea of light and vessels, because it could be just semantics and doesn't mean anything, and that's not true. In reality, these things are very significant and make a big difference. Tine Yedua, it's known, Pirush Masha Amar Deihu V'chayu Had. In that, it says that he, and says in the Zohar, in the Holy Zohar, in the Kabbalah, that he and his lights are one. Hey, he and his lights are one. In other words, God is, these lights are not something separate from God. They're just an expression of God. Hey Na'eres. So Iyu V'chiyui represents he and his lights. He and his light means he and his light. A light. Light is light. Life is light. The Iyu V'garmui Chad. And also it says in the Zohar, he and his garmui, the things that he causes, are one. Hein B'chinas HaKelim. They are vessels. And I'll tell you something significant right now. Something significant is that the vessels in our world don't necessarily match spirituality, but the vessels in Atzilus are a perfect glove, and they are perfect glove, and they are Him. In other words, light, when it's formatted in a like a thick barrier sense, light could be a barrier, and when light is a barrier, it's a vessel, but it is the same thing. The life force of light and light as a barrier is also light. It's also God. It's also expression of Him. And if we look at the lights of the 10 building blocks, 3 emotional and 3 intellectual and 7 emotional, when we look at them in a holistic manner, when we look at them in parts, nikra esespheres blima. They are called the 10 spheres, 10 building blocks, blima, without a what. What is a definition? The word what, without what, means without definition. Bli mahus, without a internal definition, because they are flexible. They're unlimited and flexible and can be manifest in any way. But and it's also written in the Zohar and Pasach Eliyot. We say this in the prayers every Friday. The love mikol inlein midas klal. That God is none of these midas. God is none of these spheres. God is not spheres. He's way beyond spheres. But if we look at the limitation that the vessels, I mean, in other words, the lights as barriers, they are something. They are something concrete. In other words, the lights of the 10 spheres are just potentials of God expressing Himself in a certain way. However, the vessel is a concrete limit, and they have a definition. And this is what it's written in the Zohar. God takes out 10 fixers. In other words, fixers is like jewelry. And we call these pieces of jewelry, and the reason why they're jewelry is because a jewelry, makes the man, or allows the person to express themselves, expresses their taste. So these fixers are actually called spherin, like, spherin. Let's call them sapphires, and we know they're building blocks. Lachzah, to communicate, to make a God seen. Van Haga behind Almin, to run the world. That's what these spheres, they run the world, they lead the world. V'chein ma, and also this that it's written, the sheklolos esespheres dalatilis nikra bedalit shemes. In other words, the 10 spheres of the world of Atzilus, which is expression of God's personality, when they're set up in different ways, these 10 spheres, there's 4 names of God And these 4 names of God could be spelt in different ways. You can spell the same name of God in different ways. In other words, the first letters are going to be the same, but then the follow-up letters are going to be different. And when you give the numbers, when you each letter has a number to it as a corresponding number, when you count out of the number of the first one is called Ab, 72. The second one is called Sag, 63. The third one is called Ma, which is 45. The fifth one is called Ban, which is 52. And each one of these a different emotional is, or different one of the spirits is dominant. And the way we spell the 72 one, Ab, Milu Yudin, we spell the later letters with Yuds, Chachma, and the dominant energy is Chachma, is insight in the 72 one. Uvesag, and in 63, Yudin Va'aleph, the way we spell it is with Yud and Aleph. In other words, when we spell the Hey, we can spell Hey, Yud, Aleph, and it's still Hey. Bina, and the dominant energy is Bina, is comprehension. Uma and Ma, 45, Bimiloi Alpin. Then we spell the Hays with just Alephs, and you get 45. Bizarre, and the dominant energy is the male small faces energy. Uban and 52, Bimiloi Hayin. Then we spell the Hey with other Hays, like Hey. The Malchus, and the dominant energy is leadership and expression, which is actually a feminine energy, Kiyadua, like it's known. Veloshan Azer, in the words of the Zayar, Lala Esesphiris Nikra Raza Deshma Kedisha. The 10 spheres are called the secret of the holy name of God, Bilbad. So basically, they're just the holy name, and it's not the essence of God. It's just God expressing Himself in these ways. Kiyadua, like it's known. Kolhu rak mitzad bechinas hakelim, dafkav kiyadua. In other words, the limits and the borders of these names is the vessels creates that border, because the light is just a potential for anything within that domain. And this is where we're going to stop for today. And it's a lot to think about. And it's our mission, our mission is to harmonize with these ideas and to recognize how different things that happen in the world is because God is expressing Himself in various ways. And we all, and the point over here is all these different expressions are not a contradiction to the oneness of God. Just because we see different emotions in the world, God is still one, and that is the idea of the higher oneness. So we're still learning all about the higher oneness. And the advantage of the higher oneness is it keeps us in the right direction. So it keeps us in the right direction. And also the evil side, our drive for evil, loses its power when it learns about the higher oneness. So this is very important to do some learning about some thought, regular thought about the higher oneness twice a day, preferably. And this weakens our drive for evil, because our drive for evil does not contradict these things. And so that's it. And we're going to see you next week. Next week, we're already going to have the month of Adar. And the month of Adar, it says in Code of Jewish Law, when we Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, when we get into the month of Adar, we increase in happiness. So this is a very opportune time to start increasing in happiness. And next week, we'll be already in the month of Adar. Bezras Hashem.
Thank you, Rabbi Chirik. Okay, I'm going to say a few words about the parsha. Just 1 second, please.
Okay, bye.